want to clarify. We talked about this the other night at the agenda meeting, and there are certain other outstanding issues with this public hearing. And I believe we're waiting for additional information. We hope to have that at the time of the public hearing. I believe and I think that if we don't have it, we're going to extend that public hearing. Just for everybody, they rush to the town clerk's office, you're going to find a map there, but it doesn't say much. That's only because there are several outstanding issues that I'm not allowed to discuss at this time, and the board is aware of that. But on this particular piece of property, we want to try and move forward on it. And that's why I seconded it.
Mr. Godlewski?
Yes.
Ms. Deleva?
Yes.
Mr. Calder?
Yes.
Supervisor Delgado?
Yes, motion passed.
Resolution number 221.11, declare the town of Rotterdam as lead agency and authorize the town planner to prepare, file, publish, and distribute all documents necessary to comply with 6 NYCRR Part 617 and state environmental quality review relative to the above referenced proposed sewer district in the town of Rotterdam.
I have a motion.
I'll make the motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second it, Mr. Supervisor.
Any questions? Call the roll.
Mr. Godlewski?
Yes.
Ms. Deleva?
Yes.
Mr. Calder?
Yes.
Supervisor Delgado?
Yes, motion passed.
Resolution number 222.11, call for a public hearing to be held on Thursday, August 10th, 2011 at 7 o'clock p.m. at the John F. Kirby Government Center, Town Hall, 1100 Sunrise Boulevard, Rotterdam, New York, 12306, upon adoption of a proposed local law of the year 2011 for the following purpose. To repeal in its entirety Article 28 of the Rotterdam Zoning Code, Sections 270 through 220 through 270 through 224, entitled Critical Impact Uses and Critical Impact Permits.
Do I have a motion? Anybody make a motion?
Mr. Supervisor, if I may make a few comments. I will move this resolution forward. I will make a motion, but only if it calls to ask the Planning Commission to make a recommendation for this body. That has been the practice, all right? It's in town code. I know Mr. Brick has had discussion with the supervisor, and I don't want anybody to think that I'm in favor of this critical impact stuff that's in the town code. I was on the Planning Commission 5 years ago, and I voted no because I didn't think that the control of it should have been vested with the town board, should have been with the Planning Commission. But I find no need at this time to expedite getting rid of this and going outside the normal process. It's not going to hold up any project. The project that is involved has already been approved. We just voted on a sewer district for it. The Planning Commission and this board has been more than flexible on the previous resolution to move that project along. And I understand this came up at a meeting the other day, Mr. Supervisor, regards the sewer district. And from my perspective, and I am not speaking for the rest of the board, they have to make that determination. I find and see no linkage between the previous resolution. And I would say, if the resolution is amended to say, send it to the Planning Commission for a recommendation, I will support it. Now, the Planning Commission, I see a notice on the board when I came in, has changed their meeting date for it will coincide before our town board meeting. So we can call for the public hearing after we have their recommendation. I have no idea how they're going to vote. I've talked to the chairman of the Planning Commission. He discussed it last night with the board. He doesn't know. But the process, and the reason the process is set up this way, there's a time period between this. And it makes no sense to call for a public hearing if the public has nothing to see or to review. And that's my issue with this. All right? So if we amend it to just call for a recommendation from the Planning Commission, I will make the motion to support it. But the way it's constructed now, And the way the resolution is written, I will not support it. Now, I don't know how the rest of the board feels, that's your determination.
Bob, in our packet,
I know what it says.
it says refer to
No,
the
I know,
routed.
but I have a little document here called Town Code 27174, and it's very clear. And I'm not, and Mr. Brooks out there, and he knows where I'm reading from. Before the public hearing, that means before it's called, you have to get their recommendation. I mean, what are you going to base, and what is the public, when they come here and hear us deliberate this issue, what are they going to use as a basis for reference? The previous administration and me had quite a few go-arounds while public hearings and information be available for when the public comes to a public hearing. They had the information to understand why we're doing what we're doing and to ask intelligent questions. And like I said earlier, believe me, I'm not in favor of the critical impact, all right? But to me, the town code says, before the public hearing, you don't incorporate it in a resolution, okay, to do away with it. And Diane Marco's out there, she knows, she sat on the board with me, it means what it says. You have the resolution, you get the recommendation, we'll have it for the 10th. I would say on August 10th, based on what they give us, the board has to make a decision, and then we can schedule the public hearing.
So are you asking the table this, Bob?
Well, I would say, no, what I'm saying is, we have to make ask the planning commission for a recommendation.
So do you want to
Well-
add that?
So all I'm saying is, if we agree, and it's understood when this resolution is passed, that the only thing we're doing on this resolution is asking for the planning commission's recommendation, then, like I said earlier, I will support it.
Well, actually, that's what we're doing.
No,
Yeah, would you speak on this, Andy, because we brought this up at the meeting, and what it does, Andy will explain what it does.
Good evening. Andrew Brick from Downs EPC, 1 Winter Circle, Albany. Yes, we had a meeting with yourself, Mr. Supervisor, Tom Ewell from the Planning Commission, Doug Cole, the town's engineer, Mike Reesmer on Monday, regarding the issues related to sewer for the apartment project at North Thompson Street. Now, one of the questions that came up during that meeting was, what's the procedure we need to follow because we fall under this critical impact permit? And the discussion became the fact that it's never been utilized. People didn't even know it's there. It never came up during the planning commission process. It kind of completely got overlooked. And Public Works Commissioner Griesmer and Frank, they said, well, why is it even there? Why should we make it go through the process if we don't use it anyway? Let's just get rid of it and pursue that option. So based upon that, we had drafted a proposed resolution to schedule a public hearing. Inadvertently, left out the reference to the Planning Commission. Bob is entirely correct. It does have to be referred to the Planning Commission. The difficulty we had, though, was the Planning Commission was scheduled for, the only meeting in August was scheduled for after the next town board meeting. So you would have scheduled the public hearing on the 10th without the benefit of the recommendation, which would have required you to continue the public hearing. However, it's my understanding, and I just saw it on the door downstairs, that their meeting is now on August 9th. So this resolution, the new 222 that I'm reading here, refers it to them, but also sets the public hearing for the 10th, with the expectation that they will discuss it and make a recommendation to you at their meeting on the 9th, so you can schedule the public hearing on the 10th with their recommendation. Clearly, if for some reason the meeting gets canceled or they don't make a recommendation, then you'd have to cancel the public hearing on the 10th pursuant to the code. The reason that we would request on behalf of the applicant that you schedule the public hearing now is in the interest of moving this project along so we can get to a point where we can close the property, close the deal with the Little Leagues and transfer the property. And because you only meet once in August, if you don't call for the public hearing until August, then the public hearing isn't until September, so we lose a month. Now that the Planning Commission has moved their meeting to the 9th, I think you may be able to have the public hearing with the recommendation in your hand, but that would need to be called for this evening. Now that I've thoroughly confused you all.
no, not really.
Just add-
Might have confused them, but it didn't confuse me.
So you just add the statement.
All right, now,
Excuse me, Andy. One of the big reasons was because if a contractor of any kind any big company comes into the area and wants to build, they can spend a ton of money
Oh, sure.
on this whole project, get it passed through the planning commission, correct?
Correct.
And then come to the board and get shot down.
Right. I can't explain why this is a bad law any better than Bob did back when he was on the planning commission when it was passed. If you review the minutes, he made it real clear why this wasn't a good idea. And it's two things. The way this section is written, this article is written, the planning commission goes through the whole process, the approval process. The applicant pays thousands of dollars to their engineers, their experts, their attorneys, and gets their site plan approval. Then, they have to go to the town board for a critical input permit. There's absolutely no standard or requirements or thresholds in this. It's completely up to the discretion of the town board to just say, well, you just spent hundreds of thousands of dollars to get your planning commission approval, went through the review process, but we don't like your project, so we're going to deny it. Now, that's never happened because this has never been applied, but I can guarantee you, we do represent a number of developers. I can guarantee you that developers out there, when they're looking to relocate somewhere or locate somewhere, when they find this in your town code, their people are telling them, don't go near that town because you'll spend all the money to get your planning commission approval, and then you can be held hostage by the town board without any sufficient standards or thresholds. And I think that's why they may skip over this town and look to develop somewhere else. Our firm on Monday night just obtained the final approvals for the large Target store in Glenville. Target is going in and reusing the old Kmart on Route 50, which is a great reuse of an existing vacant big box. Target is there. ShopRite just announced they're going to St. James Plaza in Niskayuna. Both of those are examples of something that would have been subject to this. And we don't know this, but it's quite possible that those companies may have looked at Rotterdam and saw this on the books and said, we don't want to deal with that. It's just easier to go to someplace where this doesn't exist. The other concern regarding this particular section of the code, as I said, is there's no standards in it, the way it's written. It's completely up to the board. If the three members of this board don't like the project, no matter how much money they invested, no matter what the planning commission thought about it, it gets denied. The planning commission, and I think Bob can speak to this, and Tom Ewell said it at the meeting, this critical impact permit statute is a direct insult to the planning commission. It's basically saying to the planning commission, we want you to go through the motions on projects, but then we're going to have the final say. And I suspect if you discuss this with planning board members, they will say, this thing completely usurped our authority, it gutted our authority, we're the people that do this, but now you're saying we're not competent to do it. And those are the arguments that were made against this when it was originally passed, granted by a prior administration, not by anybody here, and it fell on deaf ears. So that's the logic from our standpoint on why it should be removed.
And also, it was Tom Ewell's idea to eliminate it.
I think the first person I suggested at the meeting was Public Works Director Griesmer, but Tom, I don't think Tom had a problem. Tom, as a planning board member, as a planning board chair, is offended, and not to speak for him, but asking himself, is offended by what this does to their authority and what it says about their expertise and their ability to review projects, successfully.
He did say that on Monday night's meeting when we were there, you're correct.
Yeah.
I have a question, Andy. The quickest way to get this project through, which we all want to get it done and get the Lily Fields going, is to hold a public hearing? Schedule a public hearing.
Schedule a public hearing this evening for August. So that way, if all the ducks are in a row, including the planning commission recommendation, then we can have it in August.
Okay.
If you just referred to the planning commission tonight, Councilman, then we're only calling for the public hearing in August. Public hearing in September, we just lost a month.
And then we lost the whole summer.
Correct. You can call for the public hearing and cancel it if you don't have everything you need on the 10th.
Gotcha.
It's always something you can do.
Okay.
Well, we never have to close a public hearing.
Correct. You wouldn't even have to open it if you don't want to. It's completely up to you.
Right. Once we...
Correct.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Yes,
Huh?
yes. I've had my feelings hurt many times on the planning commission and on the town board. I can assure you, it doesn't bother me. However, I started my little dialogue, when I was not in favor of that when it was put in place, and I still hold that position. However, as I said, I can't believe that 30 days difference is gonna make a difference. The project for the Little League fields has been all approved. You received all the conditions the other night. It has no bearing on this critical impact. And if you think the supermarket or a drugstore is gonna decide to come here because we changed this in 30 days, don't kid yourselves. All right, we know who calls the shots in Schenectady County, okay? Now, I'll go right back to what I said before. There was no linkage between this and those ball fields, all right? And if you read what you were given the other night, do you see one condition in there that says you gotta get a critical impact permit? Let me finish. Wayne, you weren't here last year.
Nope.
Nikki, Frank, man, I know you're there. We had a huge project called the Golden Project. Andy, pay attention. Mr. Brick was the TDA on that. We specifically discussed the critical impact permit for the Golden Project, which is a $30 million project. And in discussions he had with the attorney for Golub, that permit is not necessary until you start to build. There have been no permits filed. They have been given permission to clear that site, to take down the trees, to get the old Republican Cub out of there. And all I'm saying is 30 days is not going to be a problem, and there should not be any linkage here. If the majority of the board feels the other way, fine. I'm just telling you, I will not support it. It calls for the public hearing on August 10th.
Just to clarify, our project is subject to the critical impact permit?
I didn't say it wasn't subject. Don't, Andy, I know what I said. It's not required until you start to build. All right, the same thing with Golub. I didn't say that. That's why I picked my words carefully. So, that's my final word on it. The board can decide. I'm only one, but that's my position.
So I'm a little confused. Are we adding that statement you wanted, Bob?
What I'm saying is
So
this.
we're calling for a public hearing on this.
No, I understand, but he wanted to put in the words of saying,
What
either
I'm saying-
recommendation.
What I'm saying is this, the way this is written, take out any reference to a public hearing and just ask for a recommendation from the planning commission. That's all I'm saying. And to me, 30 days isn't gonna make a difference on this project. I mean, it's logical. It might be that some people want, and the board has to decide, because like I said, I'm only one.